presentation with my dear colleague Tiago from the city of Lisbon, with whom I worked before coming to POLIS. And we'll be talking about a micro thing, which is bus stops. And you know, public transport and active travel, there are so many macro challenges. Why would we talk about stops? I mean, they're just stops. And well, they're not just stops. They just seem to be just stops because we fail to understand 5 things. When this PowerPoint works, we'll get to them. Well, the first of all, oh God. Yes. So the first thing is that we fail to understand is that, well, people, we talk about public transport passengers, we talk about drivers, we talk about bus passengers, we talk about cyclists, pedestrians. Well, we should actually be talking all the time about people and about how people move from one mode to the other. And we also should understand, second thing, now that everybody's talking about mobility ecosystems, well, there is a deep symbiosis between walking and taking the public transport. Public transport is what makes walking a viable mode for the everyday life. And at the same time, good walking conditions are critical to bring passengers to public transport. We also must understand that a bus trip, for example, isn't just the time we spend inside the bus. There's also the time for the experience of the user. There is also the time that the user walks to the stop, the time that the user waits at the stop, and after he gets out of the bus, it's the time that he takes to his final destination. And when these travels are integrate, you know, moving from one mode to another or from one vehicle to another, using different combining lines, for example, this time increases. And you can have, for example, in a trip such like this, I mean, it depends on the lines and on the day of the hour of the day, but you can spend up to half the time of your bus trip actually outside the bus. We must also understand that when we talk about the public transport passengers that we want to attract to public transport, that they're not necessarily the corollary of the Homo sapiens, you know, active, young, strong, capable, and all technologically enabled with their smartphones and whatever. Actually, if we have to learn something from the evolution of the human species, is that the time you live, you're living more and more and more, you're getting older and older and older. And right now, the clients, the potential clients of public transport that we should be aiming at and that are using cars right now are actually the baby boom generation, who are millions of them all over Europe, who are, well, retiring, who are not able to, because of some visual, sensory, or motor disabilities, won't be able to go on driving, and we must consider their needs. And finally, we must also understand that more than half of the population is composed of women, that women are subject to systematic sexual harassment in public transport and in public space, and that the fact that at night or after dusk at 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes midnight, waiting at the bus stop can be a real problem. So we must also consider how women can feel safe at bus stops. It has to do with the way we design the environment. So it's actually not just about bus stops, and it's about a very important element in the transport network. Furthermore, what happened in Lisbon, well, when I was there 2 years ago working with Tiago, is that, I mean, as many other cities, Lisbon has hundreds, thousands of bus stops, literally 2,000 bus stops, and many other cities have much more than that. So what we were looking for was a systematic approach to bus stops to understand the needs of users, of the various users of the bus stops, and that means pedestrians - passengers. It also means bus drivers. So what we did was we conducted a research and development process that would start with, we used surveys, focus groups, individual interviews and walkthroughs, structured observation of use. We focused on the needs of persons with disabilities, of senior citizens over 65 years old, and women, not because they were the only ones being targeted by the improvements we wanted to bring to the network, but because they had particular needs that if we respond to those particular needs, we will be responding to the needs of everybody. We also looked at the various elements of, or the various operations of a setting such as a bus stop, where you have to walk to and from the bus stop. There's the boarding and the lighting, going in and out of the vehicle. There's the waiting, there's the feeling of safety, there's the operational needs of the bus operator. We looked at international good practice. We came up with design models that several of our colleagues all across the city administration and the local boroughs could use as they made their everyday micro decisions that would have an impact, positive or negative, on bus stops. And we did some pilot projects, of which Tiago is going to present one. So what did we find? Well, yes, I'm not going to share everything, but we'll be happy to talk to you later. But obviously, there is the issue of boarding and the lighting, specifically for people with using wheelchairs. But we must understand that a lot of people also have motor disabilities that don't imply the use of a wheelchair. And they also need to use the ramps, or at least they need for the gap between the bus floor and the bus stop floor to be as small as possible. Of course, there's a high need for benches, for places, for not just for the bench and the bus stop, but for sittability, meaning surfaces where you can easily sit that are close to the bus stop. Obviously, shelter. There's a common use in many cities, also in our city, of bus stop shelters that are designed by JC Deco or Semusa, or these companies that sell public space advertising. We have to understand that usually these shelters provide shelter, as they should, but they must be dimensioned, if not the shelter, then the modules, to serve peak demand for the bus stops, or you will have seats available just for a fourth or a tenth of the users present at the bus stop. There's also an issue of, there's a systematic practice to make cutouts on the sidewalk so that buses come out of the traffic to serve the bus stop. That is not good for the buses. It's just good for the private car flow. It creates several operational problems for the bus stop drivers, for the bus stop, for the bus passengers, and for the overall commercial speed of the bus service. It's a big problem, and we should be very careful to only have cutouts on the sidewalk when we really, really need for buses to bypass each other. So, for a user, an elderly person has to wait in line, has to see the bus line number, has to ask for the bus to stop, has to board, come out, validate, buy the ticket, walk to the seat, sit and stand up, anticipate the next destination, hold on and walk to the exit and alight the bus. So these are several tasks that any bus user has to perform, and they can be very challenging for some people and take time. So also for the bus driver, it isn't easy. So the bus driver has to see the bus stop. He has to serve the bus stop, trying to get as close as possible to the curb without damaging the tires. There's the in and out of boarding and the lighting. There's the validation of the tickets, sometimes the sale of the tickets as well, and then big challenges coming back into traffic. So bus stop design really has an impact on the security of the operation, but also, and very much so, on the commercial speed of the service. And also on the road safety, because we have to understand that pedestrians - passengers, they will walk to and from and sometimes run to and from the bus stop. And so the crosswalks have to be placed in a way that makes it safe, both for the users and for the drivers, to deal with this sometimes fast movements. So one of two basic things we did with the model which was like worked like an internal design standard that we came up with, was, well, one of them was to eliminate these cutouts and wherever possible, and to bring the bus stop to the carriageway and to occupy parking space that shouldn't be available in front of the bus stop. And that obviously enabled in several situations to go from this situation to this situation. It also obviously, because we are increasing the area of the sidewalk, it allows us to better implement the bus stop shelter. Another thing we did was to provide guidance as to how the bus stops have to be placed in relation to crosswalks. I'm sorry, this is in Portuguese. We don't have time to go into detail, but I'm happy to share with somebody who asks or writes to us. And so now, my dear colleague, Tiago Aleixo, will share a specific example of a situation where this was made. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this because I have the slides here. So Tiago, this is up to you now.
Thank you, Pedro. So in the next slide, as Pedro was talking, we try to understand the manage between the passengers, the users, and the bus. The example that we're going to show you, it's the Plaza of Benfica station. Before our redesign of the station, we managed to redesign and to study the bus stop at the north, as you can see in the yellow, and you can see at the bottom, you see 4 bus stops that we need to redesign and reconfigure the design and think all about the process between the going in and out from the bus. Next, please, Pedro. Thank you. So one of the major problems in this plaza, it was the pedestrian crashes. In 7 years, we can see that the tiny dots, the colored dots, that all it was pedestrian crashes, 23 we could register. Next one, please.
And they were all on the crosswalk.
Yeah, thank you. So this is the Benfica Station Plaza before our design and the implementation, but I want to see that I want to show you the axis of the train, the station, and the distance and all amount of obstacles between the exit and the bus stop. One of the 5 bus stops that that area had. Please, Pete, once more. Thank you. So this bus stop is that one you could see after and before. Sorry, this is in more detail the amount of the obstacles between the bus and the shelter. Please, Pete, once more. So what we did. And this is a photo from the Google Maps. You can just go around and see a little in detail if you want in the street maps. But what we did is to move one bus stop to another place. You can see in the blue arrow at north. And with this, we did something very simple. It was
Scuba.
Before, okay.
Yeah, I'm going back.
Okay, back. Okay. So what we did with this, it was to reduce the distance between the bus stop and the exit of the station. 1, 2, we ensure that the pedestrians, when it goes to the bus stops, to the train of the stations, is going safety mode, because you have a crosswalks. It was well placed. It was before the bus stop, and we all the traffic lights there. And of course, in front of the exit of train station, you see a new green area where the pedestrians can just walk freely and without any barriers, and it's very accessible walking there. So we're going to see what we did on the bus stop here. So we did three things. One, we just rotate the bus shelter about 30 degrees relative to the curb. Then second, we draw a line on the pavement that we call the line Q on the pavement. And we make a bench on that green area that you can see next to the red line. So why is that? Because with when you rotate the bus stop, you will have a space between the bus and the shelter, and this means to the person who has sit inside the shelter can see better which bus is coming. Also, the line Q on the pavement, we try to indicate to the passenger or the users where they need to stand up, make the queue line. Why is that? Also because one of the major problems when it's the people want to get in to the people want to get out to the bus. Well, sometimes this manage of people we will increase the time of the bus is stopped there. So if you can manage this space and make some more space between the shelter and between the bus is better, and this kind of movement is more faster. And of course, the next slide, we try to redesign a more public bench that they are around the green area. As you can see here, the line queue on the pavement that we tried to people understand where they could stay up and waiting for the bus. So I guess it's everything, Pedro. Thank you.